We talk a lot about extending health span on this channel, but today we're going to get a little bit more specific and get into brain span. Not just extending health, but activities that boost brain function and cognitive reserve. And you're going to find out how you measure up against your peers. Let's start with a quick test. It's called the finger tap. It's a fun one you're going to want to try with others. Start tapping your fingers on anything nearby. Desk, your leg, doesn't really matter. Anything nearby that you can tap your index finger on. Work on tapping as fast as you can. I'm going to give you some simple instructions, but I want you to keep tapping until I say stop. Find your rhythm. Now I want you to count how fast you're tapping. Did you slow down a bit? You probably found it was hard to count as fast as you could tap. So instead, maybe try counting every second tap. Is that better? If not, try every third tap. Whichever works best for you is fine, but decide which works best for you. I'll give you another moment to decide. Okay, stop. Let's take a quick break. And now let's put it to the test. You'll start tapping again when I say go and focus on counting until I say stop after 10 seconds. Okay, start tapping. And go. Good job. Stop. So that was 10 seconds. If you were counting by ones, that's your count. If you were counting 2 taps for every one, then you want to double your number. And if you were tapping 3 times for every number, you want to triple it. You get the idea. Let's try it again. Okay, start tapping. Okay, go. Good job. Halfway. And stop. How many times did you tap this time? Did you count about the same? Did you improve a bit? By now you've found your functional rhythm, your neuromotor speed to activate the muscles in your finger speed. Now let's play with it and see what happens. Start tapping again as fast as you can. And now start reciting the alphabet out loud. Keep going. Good job. Okay, stop. I'm betting you matched the rhythm of saying the alphabet to your tapping speed because you learned the alphabet early and maybe you even put a tune to it because that's how many of us learned. It was one of the first memory tricks we were taught as a child. Let's try something a bit more challenging. Start tapping again. Now I want you to name as many animals as you can that start with the letter S. Go. Any animal at all. Reptiles, things in the ocean. Okay, stop. What happened to your tapping speed this time? Did it start to slow? Okay, let's try another one. Start tapping again. Now name cities that start with the letter M. Go ahead. Okay, stop. So how did that compare with the last one? Easier, harder, about the same? Okay, one more. Start tapping now. And now begin counting down from the number 151 by threes. Okay, 151, 148, you go on. Okay, you can stop there. Depending on your strengths, Each one of these represents a different challenge. Some are better with names, others are stronger with numbers. Which one was the hardest for you? And which one was the easiest? Now for the party trick. Start tapping again. The alphabet was pretty easy, right? Now let's do it in reverse. Go. Keep at it. Okay, stop. How many letters did you get to? Did you keep trying or did you quit because it was just too hard? Let's unpack what just happened. What you just did is called dual tasking, performing a motor task and a cognitive task at the same time. It sounds simple, but your brain was doing something remarkable. The tapping was recruiting your motor cortex, sending rapid, precise signals to your hand. That's a neuromotor task. Notice what happened in those first few seconds of tapping before any cognitive load. Your brain wasn't just moving your finger, it was optimizing. It was finding a rhythm. That rhythm is your nervous system settling into the most efficient motor pattern it can, minimizing the neural demand so that your movements become almost automatic, just like walking. Neuroscientists call this automaticity. Once a repetitive movement is grooved, it shifts from conscious control to background control, freeing up cognitive resources for other things. The alphabet was recruiting your prefrontal cortex, sequencing language retrieval, working memory. That's a cognitive task. And there's a third demand layered on top, reciting the alphabet out loud. It isn't just a cognitive task, it's also a motor task. Speech requires precise, coordinated muscle activation, breath control, and vocal cords, and articulation. So your brain was simultaneously managing your finger motor output, speech motor output, and cognitive sequencing. 3 competing demands for one brain. When these systems run simultaneously, they compete for neural resources. Most people can hold their tapping rhythm through the forward alphabet. It's automatic enough that the cognitive load doesn't break the motor signal. But backwards, that's a different story. Reversing a learned sequence is effortful. It pulls hard on working memory and executive function. And for most people, one of 2 things happens. The tapping speed slows down, or they just quit. That's interference, the degradation of one task when a second is added. It's called dual task cost. And it's not just a party trick. Dual task cost is a validated marker of neuromotor and cognitive integration. Research shows it's predictive of fall risk and cognitive decline. Here's the good news. The same test that reveals dual task cost can also train it. A 2024 meta-analysis of 32 randomized control trials involving over 2,300 participants found that motor cognitive dual task training was the only intervention to produce meaningful improvement in executive function. And it also improved functional balance, gait, and muscle control. One intervention, multiple systems. That's a remarkable return on something as simple as tapping your finger. That's also neuroplasticity at work, your brain rewiring in response to challenge. And dual tasking, even something as simple as tapping and reciting, creates exactly the kind of novel, effortful demands that drive neurogenesis and strengthens neural connections. The harder it feels, the more hormetic stress, or what we call good stress, you induce, and the brain adapts. This is why I included so many dual task assessments in my book, Function. Simple, repeatable practices like this, things you can do anywhere, anytime, are quietly doing serious work. Every time you layer a cognitive demand onto a motor task, you're forcing your brain to negotiate competing signals, build new pathways, and become more efficient under load. Do it often enough, and that efficiency shows up in your daily life. Sharper thinking, better balance, faster reaction time. The brain naturally loses neurons over time, a process called neurodegeneration. Neural connections that go unused weaken and eventually get pruned away. Processing speed slows, the hippocampus shrinks, working memory becomes less reliable, and reaction time drops. This is less about aging and more about lack of use. The research is clear on this. The brain that is challenged adapts, and the brain that isn't declines. Over decades, amyloid plaques and tau tangles can accumulate in the brain, abnormal protein deposits that disrupt communication between neurons and eventually cause cell death. And here's what makes dual task training so compelling. It pushes back against these things and other aging processes that are going on in the brain. For a long time, scientists thought that the brain was fixed, that you were born with a set number of neurons and that was it. We now know that's wrong. The brain continues to regenerate neurons throughout life, particularly in the hippocampus, the region most critical for memory and learning. It's called neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons. The brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons, connected by an estimated 100 trillion synaptic connections. And your hippocampus, a structure about the size of your thumb, is where new ones are born. But neurogenesis doesn't happen passively. It requires stimulation, novel, effortful, cognitive and motor challenges that signal the brain to grow. They trigger the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or what you may know as BDNF, which acts like a fertilizer for the neurons. It promotes the growth of new cells, strengthens existing connections, and improves the speed and efficiency of neural signaling. Dual tasking hits this system hard. The novelty, the effort, the coordination demand, all of it is exactly the kind of stimulus your brain responds to. Research hasn't found anything that extends brain span better than dual tasking, and I'll have more of these in some future videos. Okay, now that you know what's happening under the hood, let's go back and put a number on it and measure where you are in your finger tapping speed versus study data. No tricks this time, just raw speed and your ability to count. I'll say go and I'll start a 10-second timer. Start tapping. Ready? Go. You'll have 10 seconds to count up here. Keep at it. Nice work. Stop. How did you do this time? Go ahead and repeat it. Pause if you want and do it again. If every count was 2 taps, double it, triple it, just like we talked about before. I'm able to do about 60 taps in 10 seconds, and I count by threes. That's just for me. That places my score at just over the 75th percentile for my age and gender. That's pretty good, and while I could work on getting faster, I'd get a lot more value out of dual tasking by adding cognitive load. That's going to do more to stimulate neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. Hope you had fun with this. Go try it on some friends. There are many more like this in my book, Function, that anyone can do at any age. If there's a functional test you're particularly interested in, drop it in the comments and I'll do my best to cover it here. Thanks for subscribing, and it's great to have you part of the WHEALTHSPAN community. Until next time, stop guessing and start knowing your health span.